Okay.
All right. Thanks for tuning in once again to Thoroughbred Horse Racing Talk on the PlaybookSports.com Horse Report. I'm Greg DePalma, along with Jon Hardoon from the Sheets and Mark Lawrence, of course, at PlaybookSports.com.
Morning, guys. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, it's nice to do the shows in the morning. We're going to attempt to do this from now on, which will brighten our days.
Probably last a week or two.
Yeah, probably. Our new schedules, that's about as long as they last. And then we have a new schedule again. All right, before we talk about this week's races, and they are going to be at Churchill. We don't do Churchill a lot, but this is a big Saturday for Churchill. Before we do that, though, just quickly, last week, even though we didn't hit exact winners, there was some really good handicapping from Jon last week, especially in the 7th race that we did from Belmont Park. That was that claiming turf race. That was the one when Jon had his long shot 46-1, who wound up getting beat at the wire. That's a killer when you're seeing your long shot there. And it actually looked like for a second, Jon, didn't it look like for you for a second that, hey, he was going to go wire to wire?
A lot longer than a second. The last few seconds of the race felt like an eternity, but he didn't get there. But listen, you give out a 46-1 that runs like that. That's
you better have taken advantage of a place bet. That's for sure.
Hard to head about. And then the next race, we actually ran 1, 2, 3. The 3 horses we all liked. Unfortunately, the horse we picked on top ran third. With the other 2 horses, we hooked up with them running 1, 2.
And you got beat at the wire too in that one.
We gave live runners out, you know, so for the most part, we have nothing to be ashamed of.
And again, not only did the 46-1 shot finish in second, but he lost to the favorite of the race.
Yeah, but I didn't like the favorite. That was the whole
But again,
race.
That's the one thing that we always try to remind everybody is you're not always going to take all of our picks, especially you're not taking my picks. You're not going to take Jon's picks all the time. Maybe you will take his picks, but then you're also got to leave room for your own picks as well.
Right.
And so
we're giving you ideas that aren't obvious to everybody. Yeah. And
so you might go, hey, you know what? I like the favorite, but I need a good long shot. And now you had one. So that's the way I see it. All right. Now we're not going to handicap the biggest race of the weekend. And it's so like the thoroughbred industry that we've talked the last 2 weeks about the Stephen Foster and the Mother Goose. And sure enough, what we get is a 5-horse Mother Goose, which is just ridiculous. So we're not going to handicap that race. And then we have a horse, Mayfield, who will probably go off at 1-9 in the Stephen Foster.
Maxfield.
Oh, Maxfield.
Not Mayfield. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we're avoiding that race. We don't want people logging on and listening to us give out a 1-9 shot.
I mean, how does that even happen? That a horse that is that good gets into a field, a big race like this, with horses that just aren't even anywhere near his caliber?
Well, it's the time of year, and it's the fact that there aren't that many great horses still left in racing at this time. You know, a lot of them retired, a lot of them are hurt on the sidelines. And then you have to deal with the no Lasix factor where people are avoiding these big stake races because they don't have the opportunity to run on Lasix. And if a horse bleeds without Lasix, it can result in a long layoff and permanent damage to the horse. So, you know, they're siding on the side of caution as opposed to gambling and taking a shot that the horse is okay. You know, they're putting the horse first, which is the right thing to do.
Jon, let me ask you a question, if I may. When we first talked about that race, when we saw Maxfield, and I said to Greg, is this horse? And my other second thought was, well, Jon would not like this race because he's odds on chalk and he looks like he can't lose. If we're doing the race and you're going to handicap on the show, I know you would not use a 3-5 or a 1-5 horse on top. Your other secondary choices would be horses that could probably at least contest. Would you bet those other horses? That's my question to you.
The problem I have with this particular race that you're talking about is after Maxfield, well, you have 9 horses entered. So after Maxfield, there are 8 of them left. The problem is you can make a case for 5 or 6 of them, you know, if you want. So what are you going to do? Bet 5 horses in a race? This is a race where I would absolutely not bet the race because Maxfield's coming off of a 2 top and he could react. So, however, even if he reacts, he's supposed to beat this field. So there's no edge in betting a 1-5 shot. And it's not even like you could play a cold exacta because, again, I got at least 4 or 5 horses underneath him that all have the same chance. So, it's the kind of thing that you have to make a post-time decision when you see prices. It's hard to do it 24 hours in advance without knowing the prices. They're going to make a mistake and forget to play someone in the race, and you got to hope you find that value before the race.
Gotcha. I'll probably, I don't know about you, Mark, because I know you were handicapping the race before we changed it, but the horse that I'll probably give a try with will be Sprawl, the 10-1 shot, the number 4. Did you like any horses, Mark, before you switched over?
Well, the horses that I liked, what I just mentioned here, horses that, out of John's group that may have a chance. I was looking at the 5-horse Silver Dust.
Okay.
As a possible contender here, and maybe the 9-horse Visitant, 6-1 horse. But again, would I reach into my pocket for either of those 2 horses? My answer is no.
All right, let's get right to it for Saturday's card at Churchill. That's tomorrow, and we've got races 10 and 12, so it's sandwiched in between the Stephen Foster. And we start obviously with the 10th, and that is the Wise Dan. It's a Grade 2 stakes race. This one will start with the 1, which is going to be my top pick. Set Piece, an 8-5 shot. Obviously, the odds is something I don't like, but I'm not really. This is not a race that I'm really thrilled about as far as some of the horses. I think there's a lot to choose from, and because of that, the 1. I like the fact that in his 3 Churchill races, he ran 8s in all 3 of them. I think an 8 actually might get it done in this race. Especially when you take a look at the fact that the 2-1 favorite is coming off a 10 and a 9, actually an 11, 10 and 9 in his last 3 races. So Set Piece will be my top pick. What about the 1, John?
The 1 is fine. He ran 8s in his last 2 races. You see, I disagree with you. I think this is a terrific betting race here because I don't think the 3 is going to win. I mean, he has a shot, obviously. He's 7 for 19 lifetime, and he runs well. However, I think you have clear, better horses to be betting in this race, even better than the 1. The 1's 8-5. He's a morning line favorite. I would use him because I'm going to be keying a 5-1 shot in here, but I would never key off of the 1. I think the 1 is vulnerable. Not only that, if you look at his sheet, Greg, every time he runs 8s, he reacts off of them. He never's yet to break through the 8s and make a forward move.
Sure.
Look throughout his career. I mean, he runs an 8, bounces to a 12. He runs an 8. He'll run another 8. Now he's run 2 of them. He's more likely to react to those 8s than make a forward move at the age of 5.
Yeah, and that's why I said I think an 8 could get it done in this race. So that's why I picked.
But you're going to need at least a 6.
Okay.
So keep that in mind.
All right. The 2 is a really strange horse because he's raced 5 times in 5 years. A 50-1 shot. And, I might actually consider the horse at 50-1, but Chad Brown doesn't train the horse anymore, which is probably why he's also 50-1.
Yeah, well, he's also a horse which obviously has had physical problems throughout his career. He's 6 years old. He has 10 lifetime starts, like you said. It's a negative trainer change. He's also coming off of LASIK. 50-1 is probably the right price.
Yeah, because in his
John, let me ask you a question about this horse here. Greg mentions he was claimed from Chad Brown, and there's a belief, I think, in the racing fraternity that you don't want to bet horses that were claimed from Todd Pletcher, a horse that Todd Pletcher really gave up on or really no longer wants in his barn. Is that the case with Chad Brown? This horse being claimed from Chad Brown for much the same reason?
That's the case, but this horse wasn't claimed. He was either sold privately or they changed trainers.
Okay.
It's not a case where it was claimed from him. Not only that, this is the Wise Dan. It's a Grade 2 stakes. Chances are there are very few horses that were ever in claiming races in this race. So that horse was not claimed. It's just a trainer change.
All right.
Either he was purchased privately by the new connections or, they went and they got a new trainer.
All right. The 3's the favorite. Some like it hot brown. And again, 2-1 though. After a horse coming off of an 11, a 10, and a 9 in his last 3 races, and he's 0 for 2 at Churchill. So why would you go with this horse at 2-1?
Well, the good news about him, if you're looking to make a case, is that last year he ran a 5 and a 7. So now he's making his third start of the year, and he could be moving forward. But at a short price, I don't want to play him. I would play him to run another 9. Not only that, he's been off of Lasix his last 2 races, so that's okay. And again, he hasn't gotten back to the 5 or 7 he ran last year. So for me, that's negative. And any time I could find a hole in a favorite, well, then I'm interested in playing the race. And that's the case here.
All right. The 4, Super Soul, is a 20-1 shot. This is going to be my top long shot. I'll throw him into the exacta as well. He goes out and races turf for the first time in his last race, does it at Churchill, does it at this distance, and goes out and wins and runs a 9. So I think that was pretty impressive. It's almost like, yeah, I guess we should have moved him over to grass a long time ago. So for 20-1, I figure why not? I'll give it a shot that maybe they kind of got lucky here with that switch to grass.
Well, it's unusual when you'll see a 6-year-old try turf for the first time and win.
Yeah.
Usually it's a sign of desperation, like they just don't know what to do with the horse. That being said, he was 44-1 last week. You missed the wedding. Don't show up for the funeral.
Well, again, at least he's 20-1.
Yes.
It's not that he's 5-1.
No, again, but you're going to find better 15 and 20-1 shots to play than him.
Okay. And one of them, let's see, another 15-1 shot is Hierarchy. And then you have the 6, Kentucky Ghost, a 20-1 shot. So you got 2 more long shots there. And out of these 2 horses, both of you guys like the 6, Kentucky Ghost. Mark, why do you like the 6, Kentucky Ghost?
Well, he checks the boxes for me, Greg. He 1 for 1 at Churchill. He's in the money all through races at this distance. He's been really solid on turf. If you look at his races, 7 on 9 on turf, he's got Bejarano up on him. In the last 3 races that Bejarano has been up, he's finished first, second, and second. I think if this horse steps up, he's worth a look at this price at 20-1.
John?
He's 20-1, and your 4 horse is 20-1. This horse has 2 9s. Your 4 horse Super Soul has 1 9. Not only that, he ran 2 9s and then reacted to the 11, and he has those 9s to go back to. He's as good or better than anything else we've seen so far, with the exception of maybe the 1 who has the 8s. But this horse is a point away, and you're being rewarded, at the window. He's 20-1. So he's live for me in here. The only problem I have with him is he's coming off of Lasix for the first time, so we won't know how he reacts to that until after the race. But if he's a price and he's really around 20-1, he certainly should be used.
All right, now comes the 7, Ride a Comet, a 5-1 shot. This happens to be both, and you guys are kind of simpatico in this race. You both like the 7, Ride a Comet, as your top picks. Mark?
I like the horse here for a lot of reasons. I don't think there's not a lot of boxes that he does leave unchecked. He's perfect for the 1 for 1 at Churchill here. 7 on 9 money in the turf. His current form is off a little bit, if you will, but you're looking back. You go back to that Del Mar Derby. Put up a really strong race, and if you can also run back to the Grade 3 Tropical at Gulfstream you ran in January with Gaff Leone up, who's up here on this horse here right now. I think for the price 5-1, he's an interesting look. He's my top horse, and I'll be interested to see what John says about this horse.
I like this horse a lot. I like the fact that 2 races back he ran a 6, which no one in this field has done, no one that we've seen so far. And if you look at his line, he ran a 10 first out this year, an 8, time off is 6, and then he ran the 10 without any time off. So he reacted off of that 6. But now he's got plenty of time. I think this horse is real live in here to run the 6 or better. If he's really 5-1, I would run to the window because I think this is a terrific play here. This is one of the 2 horses that I like a lot in the race. And, I like Affleon for Cassie. I think this horse is real live here. And again, 5-1 is more than a generous price.
The 8 is also 5-1 Field Pass. And once again, both you guys like the 8 Field Pass. So I'm assuming this would be a nice exacta, 7-8. So Mark, Field Pass, why do you like the 8, who is coming off a 10, just like the 7, but just like the 7 before that, ran a 6 in his previous race?
Got a 4-year-old horse here that's won almost $600,000, Greg. He's knocked around in graded stakes company. 7 of his last 8 races have been graded stakes, 6 graded stakes in a row coming in here. He's been a solid horse on turf again for the price, 5-1. I think he's a lot of value.
I agree with Mark here, Greg. I think, again, this one worked his way down to the 6, 2 starts back, and then bounced last time out on a soft turf. I just think that the 7, Ryder Common, is a little better. Not a lot better, a little better, and they're both the same price. That's why I went towards the 7. But if the 8 won, it would be no surprise. But this is the other horse in the race, which I like a lot.
The 9 is Spooky Channel, a 15-1 shot. Velasquez gets on board, so that's a nice change for the better. He ran an 8 at this distance in May of last year. So, and he's also 2 for 2 at this distance. What about 15-1 on the 9, John?
Well, here's the horse we were talking about being claimed. This horse was claimed 2 starts back for the 62.5 or whatever, or the 80,000 he was actually claimed for. The problem I have with him is that his last race was without Lasix, and it was his worst race that he's run in a while. Can he make a forward move? Absolutely. I mean, he has 8s to go back to, which makes him like a lot of other horses in the race. He has a chance, but I think the no Lasix last time out with the bad race is kind of a tip-off to me that he may be going in the wrong direction.
And nothing on the 10 in Love, right? The 20-1 shot. He's got 3 12s in his last 3 on turf. Okay, right. So to wrap up the race, race number 10 at Churchill, the Wise Dan, John, and Mark are both going with the 7. And that is Ride a Comet at 5-1. And the second choice for both Mark and John is the 8 Field Pass, a 5-1 shot. Meanwhile, they both also like the 6, the long shot play there, Kentucky Ghost at 20-1. And my top pick is Set Piece, and this is John's 4th choice. Let's go to race 12. And that is going to be, of course, a Churchill. This is going to be after the Stephen Foster. It's a Tepin Stakes, not a graded stakes race, but it's still a good race. 150,000. This is for the fillies. So we've got the girls. Invincible Gal will get it started. The 1 and 9-2 shot, and she's 9-2, John. But she's let's see, the best she's run was at a 10, I believe, last October. And she's coming off a 13. Was that a 10 last October?
No.
It was a 19?
Yeah, 14 and a 19.
19. So the best race she actually ran was her last race when she ran a 13.
Correct, but unfortunately a 13 is not going to do it for you here. I think a lot of horses go, certainly a couple could run the 13. It would depend on the price, whether I use her or not. The good news is that she's getting Ortiz, reunited with Ortiz. And he's a terrific rider, and Motion's a great trainer. All that said, the horse is on the bubble. It would depend on the price.
Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot to like about the next 2 horses. The 2, Sylvia Q, and the 3, Fairchild.
Oh, that's correct. Sylvia Q has 1 race on the grass, and it was not good, so she's out. And Fairchild, 14 and 15 in her first 2 tries on the grass this year. And, 15 is not going to do it for you.
All right. Now, this is Mark's top pick, the 4, Town Avenger, a 6-1 shot. She's raced once in her life. She got the win. It was at Churchill, but it was at 5.5 furlongs. She ran a 14, Mark.
Well, Greg, if it's my top horse, I made a mistake singing it into you because he's not my top horse. My mistake.
That was probably
my top horse is going to be
Stephen Foster.
Yes, it might have been, but my top horse is going to be the 8 horse when we get there. Okay. This broke its maiden here at 5.5 furlongs, if you will. Lightly raced, 1 for 1 at Churchill in that win here, but I can't say a whole lot about this horse, and I'm glad I'm not held to the horse because there isn't a whole lot of support I can give to them, other than maybe John has something good to say about the horse.
Well, the horse was heavily bet in her career debut. She was bet down to 3-1 that day. So obviously they had high hopes for this horse. But asking a horse to stretch out in career start number 2 and face winners, not the easiest thing to do. And, no one knows which direction she's going. She could make a forward move or she could react off of it. But at 5-1, I don't want to pay to find out.
All right, the 5 is Navratilova. And this is definitely going to be a horse I'll put into my exacta because she's run a really good sheet line over her 4-race career. She's gotten better all 4 races, 23, 17 last year, 12 and 11 this year, John. So at 12-1, why would we not want to put Navratilova into our exactas?
You do want to put her into your exactas. The only problem I have is both of those races were sprinting, and now she's being asked to stretch out. However, she ran long last year once when she ran the 17, which was in line.
Yeah.
So now she's a better horse. This is why I recommended that you did this race, because of horses like this, which offer value, and they have a shot. They're as good or better than the favorites. And this horse is 12-1 on the morning line. This is a must use. No question about it.
All right. Now the 6 is a 15-1 shot. Do we even care about the 6 either? Because matter of fact, if you look at it, the worst race she ever ran was that 1-mile race a couple of starts ago when she ran an 18.
Yeah, but she had a reason to run the 18. First of all, she was bouncing off the 13 that she ran 3 starts back. It was a filly without rest. Fillies always react off of big races. And she also had trouble in that race. She had trouble in her last race as well. She'd have to be a long price because even if she runs a 13, it may not be good enough here. So,
okay.
It's one of those bubble horses, depending on the price. She's going to be a big price, but I think you have better options here.
Adventuring is the 5-1 shot, the 7. And Mark, I believe this was one of the horses that you liked. Is that correct, or is everything you sent me wrong?
Yeah, I'm gonna put him in the mix here. Not to mention him first or second here, and I realize the horse is never on turf and he's never gone this distance. First time at Churchill. All the negative check marks are. What I do like is Brad Cox and Johnny Velasquez. That combination coming up here. The horse has had a nose for being in the money in 5 career races. He's cashed 5 out of 5 times. Now they're moving the horse to turf. I don't know what the Tomlinson numbers are if this horse is bred for turf. But I think Cox, Johnny Velasquez at 5-1 is worth a look.
Yeah, the 5-1, that's the one thing I would be bothered about, John. But the sheet lines outside of turf, I don't know if it was that synthetic, were pretty good up until the Black Eyed Susan.
Well, the interesting thing about this horse is her first 3 career starts, she was entered to run on the grass all 3 of those races.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
All 3 of those races were rained off the turf. So Cox is a top trainer. He's no dummy. He knows that this was a turf horse and this horse was meant for the grass, and he wanted to run her on the grass again. All 3 of those races at fairgrounds, whenever she was entered to run, it obviously rained and the races came off the grass. Again, like you said, Greg, the problem I have with this horse is the price. Yeah. You're betting a horse at 5-1, being asked to do something that she's never done before.
Well, if the odds go up, which I don't think they will, but if they do, then...
Right. Of course she could win. But, there's no edge in betting. When you bet and you want to find a price and you want to have an edge, you have no edge in playing this horse at 5-1. She could definitely win. If you like her, go ahead and go for it. But, I think you have better options at longer prices.
Okay, now the 8, that's the horse that Mark was talking about. This is a horse we all like. And out of the favorites, this is my top horse as well, Mark. So we both like this horse. What I like about the horse is it's interesting. And I know this doesn't matter too much. But if you take out the 2 graded stakes races, remember, this is not a graded stakes race. You take those 2 out, the other 3 races, you ran a 15, an 11, and a 10. It's kind of raced better. And again, like I said, I don't think that really means much, but it just seems like he seems to race better, and he is trending in the right direction when he's not going up against the top horses. But overall, 4-1, that's the only problem I have, Mark.
Well, sorry, Mark.
Well, I was going to say here, John, before I turn it over to you, that this is one of my old school handicapping ploys. I like to look at horses that have knocked around in graded stakes races. This is not a graded stakes race; it's a $150,000 race. And if they've had some work behind them. They've raced in these graded stakes races here. I love the fact that they can step down in this particular class and maybe run to the level they're expected to run in those graded stakes races. This horse is 1-for-1 with Castellano. He's 3 out of 5 up money on the turf here. I think this horse is worth a look here. Now, the form price is not crazy. I don't know if John agrees with that or not, but I'd like to hear what John says.
Well, I hate to burst everyone's bubble here, but the horse's worst race of her life was the distance race, the mile and the 16. Her sprint races, you're right. All of her sprint races are good. And the line on the sheet is good. But I have a problem betting a horse at a short price where the worst race that she's ever run was at a distance. And that's what she's doing tomorrow. She's being asked to go a distance. You know, her 7 furlongs, 5.5 furlong races were all very, very good. And the line on the sheets, very good. But why the bad race, the distance race, just stares me in the eye, you know, and she's not a price. She's 4-1. That's the problem that I have with that horse.
All right, the 9 has never raced on turf before. She's got 2 13s this year. What about the 9? Any reason to like the 9 at 20-1, John?
Well, she's got a few knocks against her. First of all, she's never been on the turf. Second of all, she's coming off of a 13 with no time off, so she figures to react. And this is another one. Her worst race was 2 starts back when she was asked to go a distance of ground. A sprint race is good. But again, she would have to improve, and she would not, you know, and she'd have to get better with the distance, which it doesn't look like she's doing.
Okay, the 10 is next up, and this is going to be one of my exacta horses, New Boss. I like the odds at 10-1, and at 1 mile, the only time she ran a mile, she won that race. She lost by a neck in her first race at Churchill last month. Again, that was at a 5 furlong race. This is, again, a race that she's going to have to stretch out to that mile. But again, at least she's won at the mile. I just like the 10-1. And again, I like a couple of those factors. I like the fact that she's got a good trainer, John. So that's really the difference, is 10-1. If I don't get a good price, then I'm not interested.
Well, she's fine. I mean, she ran the 11 last time out. This is another one that came off of Lasix for the first time 2 starts back, and she's run okay without Lasix. If she's really 10-1, you know, I guess you could use her. She's fine.
The 11 is Commander's Palace, a 20-1 shot, coming off a race at Churchill at 1 mile and won the race. The only thing is, John, she ran a 17.
Yeah, she's too slow. She would have to really wake up. She's coming off of Lasix tomorrow for the first time. I don't like her. I think you have better options.
The 12 is Barista, an 8-1 shot. And the first 4 races on turf for Barista, 22, 19, 17, 13. So we like all that. She just bounced in her last race a little bit to a 15, and 3 of her last 4 races haven't resulted very well either. An 8-1, I'd need a little bit more than 8-1.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you know, now you get into outside posts, and it's tough to win from out here. And, you know, I think at 8-1, I don't think she's any bargain.
Now, this is your top pick, John. Arm Candy, a 12-1 shot. She's got a really perfect sheet line this year, 20, 17, 13, 11. She's heading in the right direction. The only thing she's got against her is she's 0-4 at this distance, but she's 12-1, and she's got the really good combination of Asmussen and Gaffalione.
Yeah, and like you said, look at the line this year. 20, time off 17, time off 13, time off 11, and now she comes into the race with more time off. The only problem I have is the post position. It's very tough to win from the 13 post at a mile because the race starts basically going into that first turn. So unless the jockey heads up and takes back, she's in trouble. She's going to be hung out wide. However, that being said, this horse has 0 early speed. He has no choice but to take back and avoid being wide on the first turn. And I'm hoping that Gaffalione, and I have faith in him because he's a terrific rider, he's going to know what to do. He's going to take back and make one big move. You know, again, another problem is the horse never ran at Churchill. Usually like a horse to have a race over the track somewhere. That being said, I'm being rewarded. Listen, if the horse is 5 or 6-1, I don't need her. 12 to 1 or anything over 10 to 1, I'm betting this horse.
Mark?
Well, John says a lot of good things. Gaff Leon, I think, fits the horse. He's 1-for-1. Horse. What I liked about him is the fact that when he broke his maiden, they put him right into a graded stakes race. Found out immediately that might not be the neighborhood he wants to live in. And has since come back. He's run a bunch of optional claimers here, a small stake his last race here. At the price, I agree with John. 12 to 1 is a must look at in this horse.
All right. So let's just recap. In this race, John is going with the 13. And again, that is Arm Candy, a 12 to 1 shot. Mark is going to go with the 8. Toby's Heart, a 4 to 1 shot. And, my top pick based on the odds, I figured I'm going to go with Navratilova, the number 5 at 12 to 1. And again, in race 10, John and Mark both like the 7. And I'm going to go ahead with the 1. We've got some good races coming up, right, John? It's we're at that time of year.
Well, Saratoga starts in about 3 or 4 weeks, so yeah, it's gonna get real hectic in a hurry.
Let's see, the racing schedule next week is going to give us Belmont, the Grade 2 Suburban. So it's
closing weekend. Oh, well, close to it.
Yeah, we're almost there. Yeah, and Gulfstream's got the 2 graded stakes races, including the Princess Rooney. So we haven't done Gulfstream in a while. We might do Gulfstream next week. But then on the 10th, you have the Belmont Derby and the Belmont Oaks at Belmont Park, the 2 graded 1 stakes races.
That's closing weekend. Yeah, should be great.
John, appreciate it as always. Mark, likewise. Talk to you guys next Friday morning.
Stay safe. Be well.
My pleasure, guys. As always, may the horse be with you.
Okay, and get on that Alcoholics Anonymous, Mark. I'll talk to you soon.